The bright flash of light in the Utah desert marked humanity's first contact with the Galactic Council. 3 sleek vessels touched down on the sand, their hulls gleaming under the midday sun. Admiral Samuel Wright stood at the front of the welcoming committee, shoulders squared and jaw set. This wasn't how he'd imagined first contact, not with strange beings who claimed to represent thousands of civilizations across the stars. "Steady," he murmured to his team. Dr. Olivia Martinez nodded beside him, clutching her translator device. The ship's doors slid open with a soft hiss. Tall, blue-skinned beings emerged, their 4 eyes blinking in the harsh sunlight. The central figure stepped forward, nearly 7 feet tall with ornate markings across its face. "Greetings, humans of Earth. I am High Counselor Xerix. We welcome you to the greater galactic community." Admiral Wright stepped forward. "On behalf of Earth, we're honored to meet you." The alien smiled. At least Wright thought it was a smile. Something about it seemed off, like adults humoring children. At the hastily arranged summit in Geneva, the Council representatives explained the structure of galactic society. Thousands of species, hundreds of thousands of worlds, all governed by the benevolent Galactic Council for over 50,000 years. And now Earth joins this grand community, Xerix announced to the gathered world leaders. Though, of course, with appropriate protections in place. Dr. Martinez frowned at this. "Protections. The Threshold Protocol," another council member explained. "For your safety and the harmony of galactic civilization, all the emerging species are classified according to technological and cultural development." The alien displayed a holographic chart showing classifications from Class 1 through Class 5. Earth had been designated Class 3. This determines access to certain technologies, star systems, and knowledge, Xerix explained. "For your protection, of course." That night, in a secure conference room, Admiral Wright paced while world leaders debated. "They're offering us the stars," the German chancellor said, "with some reasonable restrictions." Dr. Martinez shook her head. "These aren't reasonable restrictions. They're keeping entire fields of science from us. The medical technology alone they're withholding could save billions of lives." "We don't have much choice," the Chinese president responded. "Their ships could destroy our planet. We must accept their terms." 6 months later, Earth had its embassy on the massive Council hub station. Admiral Wright and Dr. Martinez led the human diplomatic team. The station was a marvel, a spinning wheel 20 miles across housing representatives from hundreds of species. But something wasn't right. "Have you noticed how they treat the Class 2 species?" Martinez whispered to Wright as they watched a group of small, furry aliens being escorted away from a restricted area. "Like servants," Wright agreed. "And did you see how the Council representative spoke to them? Not as equals." In their embassy quarters that evening, Martinez outlined her concerns. "The Council representatives use subtle manipulation tactics. They praise us for simple accomplishments, treat us like children making our first steps. I've studied their educational materials. They're designed to shape our development along specific paths. Paths that keep us dependent on them," Wright realized. Their suspicions deepened when they met privately with a Class 4 species representative named Coulter. His species had been part of the Council for over 300 years. "You will never advance beyond Class 3, Coulter told them quietly. "No species ever has. The threshold is not meant to be crossed." "But they said with time and development," Wright began. "Lies," Coulter interrupted. "The Council maintains power by keeping most species beneath the threshold. Those above it are the founding species, the ones who created the Council 50,000 years ago." As Wright and Martinez left the meeting, a Council security team approached. "Greetings, honored humans. The High Council wishes to discuss your species' remarkable adaptability. They believe you may qualify for special research privileges." Wright and Martinez exchanged glances. The game had begun. Daniel Reed rubbed his tired eyes as he stared at the glowing screen before him. As a human scientist allowed to work in the Council's massive archives, He had access to more information than most Earth representatives. But what he'd found today made his blood run cold. The records were clear. In the Council's 50,000-year history, no species had ever advanced beyond their initial classification. Not one. Daniel glanced around the empty archive room before downloading the files to his secure data stick. He needed to get this to Admiral Wright immediately. The corridors of the Council Hub Station were bustling with beings from across the galaxy. Daniel kept his head down, trying not to draw attention as he made his way toward the human embassy section. A tall, insect-like fraction nodded at him as they passed. Daniel forced a smile. Were they watching him? Did they know what he'd discovered? "Dr. Reed," a voice called from behind. Daniel froze, then slowly turned. A Council security officer approached, 4 eyes blinking in sequence. "Your archive access registered unusual search patterns today. Is everything satisfactory?" "Just researching Earth's integration process," Daniel replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "Comparing our path to other Class 3 species." The security officer's upper eyes narrowed. "Such comparative analysis is not recommended. Each species' journey is unique." "Of course. My apologies." The officer departed, but Daniel knew his time was limited. He changed direction, heading not for the embassy but for a small maintenance corridor where he had arranged to meet Lisa Harper, Earth's intelligence officer. "Did you get it?" Lisa asked as he slipped through the door. Daniel handed her the data stick. "It's worse than we thought. The threshold isn't a developmental stage. It's a permanent barrier. For 50,000 years, they've kept species divided this way." Lisa's face hardened. The other files. Military capacities of all Council founding species. Locations of their key installations. "Good. Admiral Wright needs these immediately." She tucked the stick into a hidden pocket. "There's more. I've uncovered Council surveillance operations on all our colonies. They're monitoring everything. Research facilities, communications, even military training." A soft knock interrupted them. Lisa drew her concealed weapon, but relaxed when a hooded figure entered. Zoltar, a renegade Council member who had been secretly meeting with humans for weeks. "Your suspicions are correct," Zoltar said, his 4 eyes darting nervously. "The Council just approved increased restrictions on human scientific development. They fear your adaptability." "Why help us?" Daniel asked. "The threshold system was created to maintain power, not to protect developing species. My people once believed in true cooperation. Now we rule through deception." Zoltar's skin rippled with what Daniel had learned was distress. "You humans remind me of what we once were." 2 days later, Admiral Wright called an emergency meeting with Earth's leadership via secure quantum channel. Dr. Martinez, Daniel, Lisa, and 12 other key personnel gathered in the embassy's shielded room. "The evidence is conclusive," Wright said grimly. "The Council has no intention of ever allowing humanity to advance beyond Class 3. Their threshold protocol is a system of permanent subjugation. We need a response strategy," Dr. Martinez added. "They're already moving to limit our technology development." Admiral Wright nodded. "That's why I've authorized the formation of a covert task force. Operation Threshold Breach begins today." Lisa stepped forward. "We've identified 6 other species who suspect the truth. Potential allies." Daniel displayed images of the species Zoltar had suggested might join them. The warrior Drakari, the telepathic Nivari, and others, all trapped below the threshold for centuries or millennia. "We're not just fighting for Earth now," Admiral Wright said. "This is about freedom for all suppressed species. The Council crossed a threshold when they decided to limit humanity." Dr. Martinez smiled thinly, "And humanity is about to erase it." Captain Eric Bennett stood at the helm of the Earth vessel Intrepid, staring at the sleek piece of technology in his hands. The quantum navigation module wasn't supposed to exist on a human ship. It was classified as Class 1 restricted. Technology the Council had deemed too advanced for Earth's developmental stage. "Are you sure about this, Captain?" asked Lieutenant Paige Johnson, her eyes fixed on the alien device. Admiral Wright's orders were clear, Bennett replied, turning the module over. The Council accidentally let this fall into our hands. They're testing us. 3 weeks earlier, a Council diplomatic vessel had visited Earth's lunar base. After their departure, maintenance crews discovered the advanced navigation system left behind. When Earth authorities attempted to return it, the Council responded with unusual delay and confusion. It's a trap, Dr. Martinez had explained during the briefing. If we use it, we prove we can't be trusted. If we return it, we remain obedient children. Admiral Wright had made the decision. We use it, but not the way they expect. Now the Intrepid hovered at the edge of the Voraxian system, a sector explicitly forbidden to Class 3 species. The quantum module had allowed them to bypass Council detection grids. Life signs on the third planet, Johnson reported. Consistent with the Voraxian species profile. Bennett nodded. Take us in. Stealth protocols. The Voraxians had once been spacefaring, according to Salter's secret files. Now they lived in pre-industrial conditions on their homeworld. Their technology mysteriously regressed after Council contact centuries ago. The landing team found a simple village near a forest edge. The Voraxians, reptilian beings with iridescent scales, reacted with fear initially, then curiosity. Their leader, a female with elaborate scale patterns, approached cautiously. Bennett removed his helmet. We come in peace. We are humans from Earth. The translator converted his words. The Voraxian leader hissed softly before responding. The sky visitors return, like those who came before, those who took our star wings. Bennett exchanged glances with Science Officer Karen Miller. Star wings? The Voraxian led them to an ancient building. Inside were drawings depicting spacecraft, advanced cities, and finally, the arrival of Council ships. The final images showed the Voraxians surrendering technology to the Council representatives. They systematically dismantled their civilization, Miller whispered. Just like Salter said. The Council told them it was for their own protection, Bennett realized. The same lie they tell everyone. That night, around campfires, the humans shared knowledge with the Voraxians, simple technology that could improve their lives without alerting Council monitors. Medical techniques, agricultural improvements, sustainable energy concepts. This directly violates the Threshold Protocol, Johnson said quietly. That's the point, Bennett replied. The Council wants boundaries no one can cross. We're showing there's another way. On the third day, their communicator chirped. The face of Andrea Summers, human liaison to the Council, appeared. Captain Bennett, she said, her expression carefully neutral. Your ship is reported missing from designated patrol routes. Communications malfunction, Bennett replied smoothly. We're conducting repairs. Summers' eyes narrowed. The Council is offering technical assistance. Please transmit your coordinates. That won't be necessary. We've resolved the issue and are returning to base. After the communication ended, Bennett turned to his crew. She knows exactly where we are. Is she reporting to the Council or to Admiral Wright? Johnson asked. Both, most likely, Bennett replied. The game gets more complicated. Before departing, the Voraxian leader presented Bennett with an ancient artifact, a metal cylinder covered in unfamiliar script. From the time before, she explained, our ancestors hid this from the Sky Council. Later, aboard the Intrepid, Miller's analysis confirmed their suspicions. The cylinder contained historical records directly contradicting the Council's official galactic history. Species after species had been manipulated, their development artificially stunted. We've crossed their threshold, Bennett said, staring at the translated text, and found exactly what they didn't want us to see. Commander Jack Fuller crouched behind a fallen pillar, dust coating his uniform as he waited. The ruins on this abandoned moon weren't on any Council star charts. That was precisely why the meeting had been arranged here. Movement at the northeast quadrant, whispered Sergeant Amy Grant, her scanner detecting approaching life forms. Fuller nodded. Our friends have arrived. 3 figures emerged from the shadows. 2 Drakari warriors with their distinctive crimson scales, and between them, a smaller being with translucent skin that shifted colors with each step. Commander Fuller, the color-shifting being said, its voice melodic. I am Eliza, speaker for the Navari Collective. Thank you for coming, Fuller replied, rising to his feet. The risk you've taken is necessary, Eliza interrupted. For too long, our people have lived under the Council's thumb. Class 2 status for 5,000 years, despite technological advances that should have elevated us decades ago. The meeting was one of dozens happening across the galaxy. For 6 months, since discovering the truth about the Threshold Protocol, humanity had been quietly reaching out to other species with similar grievances. Dr. Peters has something for you, Fuller said, gesturing to the human scientist who stepped forward with a small device. This communication system operates outside Council monitoring protocols, Dr. Nicol Peters explained. It uses quantum entanglement principles they believe Class 2 and 3 species don't understand. The taller Drakari warrior took the device, examining it with slitted yellow eyes. You've mastered this technology in just 2 years since contact. Impressive. Humans adapt quickly, Fuller said. It's why the Council fears us. Back on the Council hub station, Heather Wilson navigated the diplomatic reception with practiced ease. As Earth's assistant ambassador, she moved among representatives from dozens of species, her smile revealing nothing of her true purpose. Ambassador Wilson, called a Juxtar diplomat, his crystalline body reflecting the room's lights. I was fascinated by your proposal at yesterday's trade committee. Just laying groundwork for future cooperation, she replied smoothly, accepting a drink from a passing server drone. Her real mission was far more delicate. Each conversation, each seemingly innocent meeting, was another thread in the growing web of alliance against Council rule. Today, she needed to make contact with the Pellerin representative, whose species had recently been denied technology upgrades for the 5th consecutive cycle. Across the galaxy on Earth's Mars colony, Admiral Wright reviewed the latest intelligence reports with his senior staff. Dr. Martinez pointed to a holographic display showing Council fleet movements. They're increasing patrols near systems where we've made contact with potential allies, she reported. They suspect something, but don't know what. What about the archive? Wright asked. Lisa Harper stepped forward. Our team reached it 3 days ago. The information is staggering. The archive was an ancient data repository Salter had told them about, hidden on a remote asteroid in neutral space. For millennia, a secret group of Council dissenters had collected evidence of the Council's manipulations. Thousands of civilizations, Harper continued. Some advanced far beyond current Council technology, all systematically suppressed or destroyed when they questioned threshold classifications. Wright's face hardened. And the counter-surveillance technology. Dr. Peters' team has distributed it to 14 allied species, Harper replied. For the first time in 50,000 years, beings are communicating without Council oversight. A junior officer entered and handed Wright a message. He read it silently, then looked up. The Council has formally requested an explanation for unusual human activity in restricted sectors. They're demanding Captain Bennett appear before them. They're moving faster than we anticipated, Martinez said. Wright nodded grimly. We always knew this coalition would eventually be discovered. The question was whether we'd have enough allies before that happened. He turned to the star map showing small lights where allied species had joined their cause. 53 species now, he said, from across all classification levels. When the Council finally realizes what we've built. He paused, looking at the faces around him. It will be too late to stop it. Martinez smiled. The threshold is already cracking. President Sofia Martinez stood before the Council chamber, surrounded by the towering representatives of the founding species. Though she appeared small among them, her posture remained unbending. The massive circular hall contained delegates from hundreds of worlds, all watching the confrontation unfold. High Counselor Xerx's voice echoed through the chamber. We have documented 67 violations of the Threshold Protocol by human representatives. You have shared restricted technologies with Class II species. You have entered forbidden sectors. You have tampered with developmental timelines. Martinez remained silent as the list of accusations continued. Behind her, Admiral Wright and the human delegation showed no reaction. These are not mistakes or misunderstandings, Xerx continued. This is deliberate defiance of the very system that maintains galactic peace and stability. The holographic evidence appeared around the chamber. Captain Bennett's mission to the Voraxian world, the distributed communication devices, meetings with supposedly primitive species. When Xerx finished, Martinez stepped forward. Her voice, though quieter than the council leaders, carried clearly through the silent chamber. Earth thanks the Council for its concerns, she began. However, we view the Threshold Protocol not as protection, but as imprisonment. Gasps and murmurs spread through the gallery. Such direct challenge was unprecedented. For 50,000 years, your Council has maintained power by dividing species into artificial classifications. No species has ever advanced beyond their initial designation. This is not mentorship, it is control. Xerx's 4 eyes blinked rapidly in anger. You speak of matters beyond your understanding. The protocol exists to prevent chaos. Without it, less developed species would destroy themselves with technologies they cannot properly control. Yet the archive tells a different story, Martins replied. The chamber erupted in shock. The archive was supposed to be secret, known only to council leadership and a handful of dissenters. You have accessed forbidden knowledge, another council member hissed. Knowledge you forbid because it reveals your lies, Martins countered. Thousands of civilizations, some far more advanced than your founding species, suppressed or destroyed when they questioned your authority. Xerx stepped down from his elevated platform, towering over the human president. This defiance ends now. You will return to Earth with a council oversight team. All human colonies will submit to direct council control. Your technology will be evaluated and restricted where necessary. Martinez didn't flinch, and if we refuse, then the council will ensure Earth's compliance through other means. The threat hung in the air. Everyone present understood what other means entailed. The council's military forces could reduce Earth to ash. Martinez took a deep breath and activated her personal communicator. Commander Cooper, proceed with Threshold Protocol. Across human space, military vessels that had been on standby moved into defensive positions. On remote outposts, civilian evacuation procedures began. The coalition species, warned in advance, activated their own contingency plans. In orbit around the Council hub, human ships broke from their assigned docking patterns. Commander Adam Cooper's voice transmitted across all frequencies. Attention all vessels. Earth formally rejects the Threshold Protocol and all associated restrictions. We withdraw from Council authority, effective immediately. Any aggressive action against human settlements will be met with force. Back in the chamber, Martinez faced down the Council leaders. For 2 years, we've prepared for this moment. While you've been watching us, we've been watching you. We know your vulnerabilities. We know your secrets. You'll bring destruction upon yourselves, Xerx warned. No Class 3 species can stand against Council forces. Martinez smiled. We don't stand alone. Throughout the chamber, representatives from dozens of species stood. The Drakari ambassador's voice rang out. The Drakari Empire rejects the Threshold Protocol. More voices joined. The Nivari Collective rejects the Threshold Protocol. The Voraxian Unity rejects the Threshold Protocol. One by one, 53 species declared their independence, a coalition born in secret, now standing in defiance. The threshold you created, Martinez said to the stunned council leaders, has become your prison, not ours. The battle for Proxima Station unfolded in silence against the backdrop of stars. Human vessels moved in tight formation, their newly enhanced shields absorbing energy blasts from the larger council warships. Commander Adam Cooper watched from the bridge of the Earth flagship Defiance as his smaller, more maneuverable ships executed the battle plan with precision. Green Squadron, break and attack, he ordered. Blue Squadron, maintain defensive pattern. The Council had expected an easy victory. Their warships carried weapons technology supposedly beyond human understanding. What they hadn't anticipated was Earth's secret research program. For months, scientist Gray Harrison had been studying Council weapons systems, developing countermeasures in hidden laboratories. Their main cruiser is adjusting shields, reported Lieutenant Amy Foster. They're trying to adapt to our targeting pattern. Cooper nodded. Switch to frequency pattern beta, just like we practiced. The human ships altered their attack formation, confusing the Council targeting systems. Earth vessels darted between the massive Council ships, exploiting blind spots their engineers had identified in Council defensive systems. Across 3 star systems, similar battles unfolded. The Council had launched simultaneous attacks against major human colonies and their allies. They had superior numbers and firepower, but the coalition forces had something more valuable: knowledge of Council tactical doctrines that hadn't changed in centuries. On New Terra Colony, civilians huddled in underground shelters as Council bombardment shook the surface. Council landing craft descended toward the main settlement, carrying troops to secure the planet. Lieutenant Laura Kennedy led her Special Forces team through maintenance tunnels beneath the colony's surface. Her mission was critical: disable the Council command center once their forces established it. Enemy troops have secured the administration building, her scout reported. They're setting up their field headquarters now. Kennedy checked her specialized equipment. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves. Every Council communication we intercept gets shared with our allies. When the Council forces were fully deployed, Kennedy's team struck. Using stolen Council access codes, they infiltrated the command center. In the ensuing firefight, they captured the central communication node, the true target of their mission. Uplink established, her communications specialist confirmed. Sending tactical data now. Across the battlefield, coalition forces suddenly gained access to real-time Council communications. The tide began to turn. Back in space, the Defiance took a direct hit. Cooper grabbed his console as the ship shuddered. Shields at 40%, Foster reported. 2 Council destroyers moving to flank position. Execute maneuver Harrison, Cooper ordered. The Defiance abruptly cut its engines, dropping below the attacking vessels. As the Council ships adjusted their trajectory, the human vessel released specialized drones that attached to the enemy hulls. The devices bypassed Council shields using technology developed from the artifacts found on the Voraxian world. Council vessels experiencing system failures, Foster reported with a tight smile. Their weapons are offline. Similar reports came in from other battlefronts. The coalition forces had suffered losses, but nowhere near what the Council had expected. Their carefully coordinated defense had blunted the Council's overwhelming force. In a secure facility on Earth's moon, Gray Harrison monitored data flowing in from the battles. His team had been working nonstop, adapting strategies as the Council deployed increasingly desperate measures. They've authorized Class 1 weapons, an analyst reported, looking up from her screen in alarm. Harrison's expression darkened. Weapons they claimed were too dangerous to exist. Their hypocrisy knows no bounds. He keyed his communication link to Admiral Wright. Sir, they're deploying gravitic disruptors against the Neveri fleet. Technology they specifically banned under the Threshold Protocol. Wright's voice came back grim. They're showing their true colors now. Implement Countermeasure Suite Delta. As the battles raged, a pattern emerged. The Council forces, despite their technological advantages, fought according to rigid doctrines unchanged for millennia. The human-led coalition adapted constantly, sharing information and strategies across their forces. 3 days into what became known as the Threshold War, Council military leaders realized they were facing not just human defiance, but a fundamental challenge to their entire system of control. Species they had kept apart for millennia were now fighting as one, sharing knowledge and technology the Council had forbidden. The threshold was crumbling before their eyes. Admiral Samuel Wright stood at the viewport of the Coalition flagship Defiance, watching as the massive Council hub station grew larger. The station's elegant curves and spires had once seemed like a marvel of advanced civilization. Now he saw it differently, as the center of a system designed to control and limit countless species across the galaxy. Coalition forces report all sectors secured, reported Commander Cooper. The Council's defensive fleet has retreated to the inner system. Wright nodded. After 2 weeks of intense fighting, the Coalition had pushed back Council forces across multiple fronts. The coordinated resistance had shocked Council military leaders, who had never faced such a united opposition in 50,000 years of rule. The hub's defensive shields, Wright asked. Vulnerable to the frequency modulation Dr. Harrison developed, Cooper replied, based on the same technology they used against the Voraxians centuries ago. Wright allowed himself a grim smile. Poetic justice. The Coalition fleet moved into position around the massive station. Representatives from 53 species had gathered aboard the Defiance for this moment. The Drakari general stood beside the Niveri speaker, species that had been kept apart by Council decree for millennia. Opening communication channel to Council chambers, announced Lieutenant Foster. The main screen flickered to life, showing the Council leadership gathered in their circular chamber. High Councilor Xerix stood at the center, his 4 eyes narrowed in anger. This insurrection cannot succeed, Xerix declared. You have violated the most sacred principles of galactic order. We've exposed them, Wright replied calmly. Your threshold protocol was never about protection or guidance. It was about control. You know nothing of what we've prevented, another Council member hissed. The chaos before our rule. The wars between advanced species that devastated entire sectors. President Martinez stepped forward. Then share that knowledge. Treat other species as equals, not subjects. Impossible, Xerix declared. Lesser species cannot be trusted with such power. Then we have nothing more to discuss, Wright said, nodding to Dr. Olivia Martinez. She activated the device they had spent months developing. Protocol erasure. Based on Council technology recovered from the archive, it targeted the core classification systems embedded throughout Council space. On the hub station, alarms began to sound. Throughout Council territory, the barriers between classification levels began to fall. Information systems opened. Restricted zones unlocked. Xerix's eyes widened in horror. What have you done? Erased your threshold, Martins answered. The artificial barriers between species are gone. Coalition forces boarded the station, meeting minimal resistance. Most Council security forces, seeing the collapse of the system they had served, surrendered without fighting. Wright led the team that entered the Council chamber. For the first time in 50,000 years, the Council leaders stood without their protective protocols and guards. You've destroyed millennia of stability, Xerix said as Wright approached. We've ended millennia of suppression, Wright corrected. The Coalition is establishing a new galactic charter based on equality and cooperation. In the weeks that followed, the true extent of Council manipulation became clear. Thousands of species had been artificially held back, their development stunted to maintain the power structure. Technologies that could have saved countless lives had been restricted based on arbitrary classifications. Dr. Martinez led the committee to dismantle remaining threshold infrastructure. The work was delicate. Simply removing all restrictions at once could indeed lead to chaos. Instead, they created open access to knowledge while establishing safety protocols that applied equally to all species. 6 months after what became known as the Threshold War, representatives from over 500 worlds gathered on the reformed hub station. The old Council chamber had been redesigned, no longer with elevated platforms for the ruling species, but with all representatives seated as equals. President Martinez addressed the historic gathering. We gather today not as rulers and subjects, not as advanced and primitive, but as equals with different gifts to share. Humanity did not erase the threshold to claim power for ourselves, but to ensure no threshold would ever again divide us. As she spoke, ships from former Class 4 and 5 species, once deemed too primitive for space travel, docked at the station for the first time. Their representatives entered the chamber to thunderous applause. 10 years after the fall of the Council, the galaxy thrived in ways few had imagined possible. The Great Hall of Unity Station, built from the reformed remains of the old Council hub, buzzed with activity as representatives from over 2,000 species gathered for the decennial celebration. Admiral Samuel Wright, now retired but still respected throughout Coalition space, walked slowly through the crowded hall. His hair had turned completely white, but his eyes remained sharp as he observed the fruits of what humans had started a decade ago. "Admiral Wright," called a voice. A young Voraxian approached, her scales shimmering with the iridescent patterns that marked her as a scientist. "I'm Tala, graduate of the first Interspecies Science Academy. My research team has adapted your quantum communication system for medical applications." Wright smiled. "Dr. Martinez will be pleased to hear that." She always believed communication technology could save lives, as well as share information. Everywhere he looked, Wright saw examples of cooperation that would have been forbidden under the old regime. A Drakari engineering team worked alongside former Class 5 species from the Outer Rim, combining advanced technology with unique perspectives from cultures the Council had deemed primitive. In a quiet corner of the celebration, Dr. Olivia Martinez met with Saltar, the Council defector whose information had been crucial to their success. "The Sorial delegation arrived today," Martinez said. "They've emerged from isolation for the first time since the war." Zaltar's skin rippled with emotion. "My ancestors feared them once. The Council taught us they were dangerous. Now we learn they were peaceful philosophers all along." "Another council lie exposed," Martinez replied. "There are still so many to uncover." Not everything had been smooth in the years since the Threshold War. Some species, accustomed to Council rule for millennia, struggled with their newfound freedom. Others, given access to advanced technology too quickly, faced disruptive cultural changes. President Sofia Martinez, now serving as coalition coordinator, addressed these challenges directly in her speech to the gathered representatives. "We promised not control, but cooperation," she said, her voice carrying across the hall. "The path we chose is harder than the one the Council imposed. Freedom always is, but look at what we've achieved together." Behind her, a massive display showed the progress of the past decade. Medical breakthroughs shared across all worlds, environmental restoration of planets damaged by Council exploitation, and the first truly collaborative interstellar exploration missions. In Earth's solar system, humanity had flourished in ways they couldn't have imagined under Council restrictions. Gray Harrison's research team had developed transportation technology that made travel between Earth's colonies nearly instantaneous. Cultural exchange programs brought thousands of alien visitors to Earth each year, while humans ventured outward in unprecedented numbers. "Did you ever imagine it would turn out this way?" Laura Kennedy asked Wright as they watched species mingling freely throughout the celebration. Kennedy had transitioned from military service to leading the Coalition Security Council, ensuring the hard-won peace remained stable. "Not exactly," Wright admitted. "I thought we'd face more resistance from the old power structures." "They couldn't stand against unity," Kennedy replied. "The Council's power came from keeping us divided. Once that strategy failed, they had nothing left." As the celebration continued, Wright slipped away to a quiet observation deck. The station now orbited a different star than it had under Council rule, a symbolic move to mark the new beginning. From the window, he could see ships of all designs arriving from across the galaxy. Each represented a culture that had been classified, restricted, and controlled. Now they moved freely among the stars. A small child from a species Wright didn't recognize approached the window beside him, looking out in wonder at the spacecraft. "Where are you from?" Wright asked gently. "A world beyond the old boundaries," the child replied. My parents say we were forbidden to leave our planet before I was born. Wright nodded. There were many boundaries then. What's a boundary? The child asked innocently. Wright smiled. That simple question represented everything they had fought for. A generation growing up without artificial divisions, without thresholds to cross or erase. Something that doesn't matter anymore, he answered.